occupied the building. At one point, a bank employee tried to remove one of the protesters' banners, but succeeded only in tearing it in two before it was placed back against the window. It was a largely peaceful demonstration, but around 20 police officers entered the building after the bank was forced to close to customers. Unlike other banks, Barclays didn't have to be bailed out with billions of dollars of British taxpayers' money. But critics argue that they wouldn't be making the profits they now are if the British government hadn't part nationalised the banking system. In 2009, Barclays made profits of $7.47 billion, but paid only $183 million in UK corporation tax. That's just 2.4% of its profits at a time when public spending and services are being cut.
Corporation tax is meant to be 28%, they're paying 1 or 2%. I'm cross that there's massive cuts going on right across the country, and that they're getting away with not making their contribution to society.
I pay my tax, my husband, all my friends, we pay our tax. If they paid a fair amount of tax, then our services wouldn't need to be cut.
But one London expert says the protesters are wrong to home in on just 1 year's figures.
This particular year's figures is amazingly small, but that can be explained quite legitimately because companies are allowed to offset losses, and bear in mind the losses from the world's largest financial crisis we've had in a generation, that banks have been able to offset that against their profits.
Barclays also issued a statement saying the bank operates in 50 countries worldwide and complies with taxation law in every one. But that's a message many in Britain don't seem to be listening to. Harry Smith, AlJazeera, London.
Well, budget problems are forcing state governors across the United States to propose drastic measures to balance the books. In Wisconsin, roughly 100,000 people turned up for a fifth straight day of protests. Public sector workers accuse the state's Republican governor of using the crisis as a reason to attack their union rights. Roger Wilkinson has the story.
For the fifth straight day, they came to protest a budget proposal that would strip public employees of most of their collective bargaining rights. Wisconsin's new Republican governor says the measure is needed to trim the state's $3.5 billion deficit.
It's either a matter of making reductions and making modest requests of our government employees, or looking at massive layoffs at a time when we don't need anybody else laid off.
Show me what democracy looks like!
These public employees say Walker's move to limit their collective bargaining rights and force them to contribute more to their pensions and their health care goes too far. They say his intention is to break the back of the public employee unions.
All of us know that cuts need to be made. Everybody knows that everybody's got to pay more. That's not the issue. The issue is that there is language in the bill that busts our union.
Republicans, who won a majority in both houses of Wisconsin's state legislature last November, vowed to curb state employee benefits.
A lot of our budget problems are caused by the most generous public employee pensions in the country.
Walker supporters also showed up at the Capitol Saturday, but they were heavily outnumbered by the other group of protesters. It has become a bitter partisan battle. Public employee unions are strong backers of Democrats across the United States, and President Obama says they shouldn't be blamed for the state's budget woes.
Some of what I've heard coming out of Wisconsin, where you're just making it harder for public employees to collectively bargain generally, seems like more of an assault on unions.
Democrats in the state legislature's lower house have forced their Republican colleagues to postpone a vote on the governor's proposal until Tuesday. But Democratic state senators fled to neighboring Illinois so as to avoid a vote in their chamber.
The reason why we left is this was the only way we knew we could slow the process down, allow people to be heard on this particular issue and what it means to them, but most importantly, try and get the governor to sit down rationally and talk about this proposal and talk about changes.
But the governor refuses to budge, and the standoff continues. It's a battle that could be repeated in other states as they struggle to fund basic services at a time of dwindling revenues. Roger Wilkinson, AlJazeera.
John Nichols, a political writer for The Nation, says the protests are becoming more forceful.
By estimates of some of the police and security folks who were on the street, there were 100,000 people out in the downtown of Madison, Wisconsin today to protest against these what they see as assaults on trade union rights. And so we're starting to get numbers that are comparable to some of what we're seeing in the Middle East. The protesters are definitely, many of them see a connection to Egypt and Tunisia. In fact, I would say of the signs I saw today, a good, at least maybe 20% of them made references to Egypt. He's clearly listening. He cannot help it. At this point, the crowds are so massive. The downtown of Madison is very tight. It's a very, very small area. And so just to have this many people there is the dominant reality of the city at this point. So the governor can't be missing it. By the same token, he is a genuine conservative. He really does believe in doing the things that he's doing.
The Somali government has confirmed 4 Americans who went missing on Friday have been kidnapped by Somali pirates. The quartet was sailing on a private yacht when it was hijacked.
As a government, we confirm that 4 Americans were kidnapped by Somali pirates. We condemn this action. It is unacceptable. So the Somali government will try all it can to get information regarding this incident. We request the international community help stem the increasing piracy in Somalia.
Venezuela has dismissed Washington's call for an international investigation into alleged human rights abuses by Hugo Chávez's government. The inquiry is a key demand of a group of Venezuelan students who've been on hunger strike for more than 2 weeks. They say the government uses judges and prosecutors to target the president's political rivals. A 2-week-long transport strike in Colombia is now over. The government agreed to cancel a cut in the minimum fee. Truck drivers are paid for hauling cargo. Thousands of truck drivers and their families had been blocking roads in the capital, Bogota, crippling parts of the city. Guatemala has lifted the state of siege in a drug-plagued region bordering Mexico. The Interior Minister says the 2-month measure has driven crime down by half in the province of Alta Verapaz. The Guatemalan army has captured at least 20 suspected members of the Mexican-based Zetas cartel. Hundreds of soldiers and police sent to the province are due to remain there. Meanwhile, Mexico's President Felipe Calderon says he's sending more troops to fight drug cartels in the country's north. The border region has become a battleground between security forces and gangs trying to control lucrative smuggling routes into the United States. More than 34,000 people have died in drug-related violence since 2006.
We know the difficult circumstances facing the people of the northeast border and this entire region devastated by criminals without remorse. And due to the irresponsible actions of criminals from several groups, I announced that I have ordered 4 additional army battalions to this region with the aim of backing up the work of the armed forces.
Staying in Mexico, the southwestern state of Guerrero has been one of the country's most violent for decades, as the army fought a long battle with guerrilla groups. But now in a remote highland region, villagers have established a system for local policing that's proven effective. Marina Sanchez traveled there to find out more.
An eventful day in Jolochitan, a tiny village in the highlands of the state of Guerrero.